The biggest compliment we could get on the first Iron Man film was, wow, I don't usually like movies like that, but I loved Iron Man. And what the people are really saying is, oh, it wasn't just explosions and special effects. I cared about the characters.
Iron Man, that's kind of catchy. It's got a nice ring to it.
It was a very fresh thing to do at the end of the first movie, to announce that he was Iron Man and to not do the secret identity thing.
I am Iron Man. It's one thing to say you're Iron Man and another thing to actually even know what that means.
It allows for a whole world of possibilities that don't normally exist in this kind of a movie.
To really flesh out this character and make us, care about this guy and really wonder, what's this dynamic gonna be?
There's so many interesting characters and relationships.
When you have somebody like Robert Downey, you have Gwyneth Paltrow, you've got a character as rich as Tony Stark, you want to further explore the trials and tribulations of being Tony Stark.
Part of the appeal of Tony Stark is the damage, and, he's a complicated figure.
And somebody who is seemingly on top of the world, who has no connection to their father at all.
I never got to say goodbye to my father.
He has to be injured by the ghost of his legacy. And I thought that was great. So this time we wanted to tell this part of a bigger story,
It feels really fresh and exciting.
Everyone has the common interest of creating the best movie possible. Kevin Feige, I've heard a million times say, I'm sitting in my seat, I want to see Iron Man do this.
We found a tone with Iron Man 1 that was new and fresh and cool. And how do we keep that tone going?
We were an underdog the first time we came around. All eyes were on us this time.
A week out, it's Friday, and we're shooting not this Monday, but the following Monday. Mickey hasn't come into town yet. I've only sat down with the guy once. He's called me and texted me from Russia. He took it upon himself to fly to Russia and go to a prison, which I thought showed some commitment. He keeps faxing me lines that he wants to translate into Russian that he wants to say to his cockatoo. And I say, that's your prerogative. All of my time is being monopolized by the actors, the rehearsal process, and refining the script for these performers. And they have tremendous insight because there's nobody who's better at speaking on behalf of the logic of a character than an actor, a good actor who's smart. So I'm really trying to soak up that insight and incorporate it into the script, and then also trying to stay loose enough to be open to new ideas that come to me at 4 in the morning. So it's a very interesting combo of people. I can't believe the cast we have. I mean, any one of these people could star in their own film, and have, between Scarlett and Sam Rockwell and Gwyneth and Mickey, and of course Robert and Don Cheadle. We're in writing sessions trying to pull this script together. It always feels like you're burning the candle at both ends. I'm really, really excited about what's going to happen. First time around, we wanted to show people that their superhero was in good hands, and we took it seriously, and we were paying attention to the source material. And what we do in this one, for starters, is Tony's on a bad road. His life was too busy to start with, and then he said, I'm Iron Man. So in the script, we explore what happened over the last 6 months.
He has this hole in his chest, and this sort of dilemma that is really a dilemma of mortality after he's made this sort of vow or promise to be Iron Man.
In the first movie, we made it very clear that this is a metaphor for his heart, for what's inside him as well as the armored exterior. And we continue that metaphor in the sequel.
When he made these RTs, they had enough power to power something very large for a short amount of time or something very small for a longer amount of time. So really the question was, how many more licks can his Tigger take?
How about the high-tech crossword puzzle on your neck?
Rogash.
As things aren't working out for him, it begins to go on the fritz. He begins to notice that his body's reacting in a strange way to what essentially is implanted in his chest.
Tony, both in his suit and in his goings-on with Pepper, he's going to have to figure out something that lasts a little bit longer. Entrances. He's in process of always inventing and trying to figure out a way to improve his system.
The Mark III we saw him wearing at the end of the first one, and then we figured that he wanted another version. So we have the Mark IV, which is similar, but slightly different in design.
He's slightly adapted the Mark III from the end of the first film. It's the Mark IV, still the iconic circle RT, but if you look at it, you compare it side by side, it's sleeker, it fits better, but it is iconically and unquestionably Iron Man. It's hard to separate Tony from his tech. It's one. We're going to explore these emotional changes that he's undergoing, this connection to his father, to his past, his relationship with Pepper, and of course overcoming this technical challenge and how they sort of merge into one.
We just need to recharge our batteries and figure it all out.
Not everybody runs on batteries, Tony.
We started looking at the Crimson Dynamo backstory and kind of playing with some other characters. We really liked Whiplash, and Ryan Meinerding, who is one of the most talented concept artists in the entire industry. We thought that Ryan Meinerding doing a Whiplash costume, built in a cave with a box of scraps, could be really cool.
At the beginning of this process, when we started with Whiplash, he was actually going to be one of a whole cast of villains. So, based on sort of lesser villains in the Iron Man universe. So when I designed him, I didn't know that he was actually going to be the main villain. This is sort of where we started with Whiplash. He was sort of implanting himself with pins. At that point, I think his RT was actually going to be an internal thing. That was one concept, and then another concept was to sort of take it so it was a little bit more external. It looked a little bit higher tech, and all of the whip mechanisms were external. This was sort of like the final iteration of that beginning phase where it was really adding a lot of exoskeletal stuff to the suit.
One keyframe can define a whole sequence. You know, I mean, then we start building storyboards and we start writing script pages, but if there's an idea for a moment that John can communicate to Ryan, Ryan can put down on paper, it can just inspire everybody.
We didn't want it to be so overwhelming that you couldn't see the person underneath it, and when Mickey ended up getting cast, it made a lot of sense to show as much of him as possible. Trying to find a way to add some sort of realism to the character. I think that's primarily what my job is. We'd always sort of thought that he was going to be this sort of badass Russian prisoner. That's the archetype, if you will, that I went for in the first drawings. When we found out that it was going to be Mickey, it was definitely, it added a lot to the design, and I ended up doing a sketch of him as that character, and I think it added a whole new, like, really, gritty, dark dimension to it. That's great.
The keyframes are important too, because I'm gonna have Mickey in here today, and this is gonna mean a lot more than the pages. This is gonna be a good, as an actor, I get that.
Fortunately, I have a really good team of people, and we've divided the work well, and I feel like I've delegated properly, and I have a lot of good people working on the visual effects side of things, and we're really a step ahead as far as motion capture and doing previs based on performance by stunt people, and Maddie's in the volume operating the camera. So our previs isn't just coming out of a previs department of animators and basically, techs that are doing the job of the editor, the stunt coordinator, and the cinematographer. We're actually engaging all those people in that process. So my hope is that we're actually a leg up on that work. And I'm learning a lot from the animation model that as it informs the animated elements of this film. And my job has been to keep that consistent with what we're doing in the script and with the actors.
With this much action and this much visual effects, storyboards pale in comparison to what previs can do. Ultimately, that was just a template. It was sort of an example of a vibe for the camera that everybody can sort of understand. And then subsequently, you have first unit shooting what we have to shoot. We have second unit shooting what they have to shoot. You have the effects people knowing exactly how much we're going to see. It's a better method of communication, really, for all the people that have to be involved.
Too convenient? Do we want to see him just flying down and get rocked? Right now it's very dynamically happening right next to the camera. The explosion's going to be whiting out the camera. He's going to be disappearing. It seems he should be flying out of frame. That's such a strong impact, and he's here. That you want to lose him on an impact like that, not hold him. Right, or start it further away. That makes it easier to hold him as opposed to trying to make it so dynamic. I still think there's a little too much convenience in the framing.
What we did in previs and this time, which is different than the last time, is we did complete keyframe animation on the first one, and on this one, we decided to do it a little bit different, and we went with motion capture.
Let's just have a couple beats at the start where you're kind of hovering or, balancing as you're coming up through the floor. We're in San Francisco at Industrial Light and Magic. This is the Mocap Room, and this is where we capture motion performance and apply it to our characters. This allows us to see what can and can't work rather cost effectively without having to do it on set with a bunch of actors and everybody working around it.
That's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, let's do this one right now.
We can easily just shoot some motion capture, put it into the computers, apply it to Iron Man or War Machine, see if it's working, and then if it is, done. If it doesn't, then we can come back down here and reshoot something.
Fight choreography was captured digitally through the use of motion capture and then put into the computer system, which was ultimately the previs.
We have a virtual camera. We create the backgrounds first, then we do the movement, and then you can actually choose your angles.
All the stuff that you've seen here is motion captured. They put in this computer, this volume, and now we're in this room shooting it as if we were shooting the scene. That magic up there allows us to triangulate the camera based on the digital environment.
Using a virtual camera, not unlike what they used for Avatar, it was much more effective than me sitting at a computer with a preview artist and saying, okay, well, let's change the lens to a 27. And then you're just sitting there and with keystrokes trying to move the sig. Well, it's much more effective if I can hold the camera, have the choreography being done digitally in front of me, look at this tablet that's ultimately my camera, react to the movements, and then all of a sudden be inspired by one move that takes the camera to another place. This technology allowed me to get a lot of shots done in a short amount of time.
Action. Cut.